Hello everyone, welcome back to Retired College Athletes, a platform designed to inspire and inform current and former athletes through stories and advice from retired college athletes. I'm Sydney Umeri, and today we're talking about how college athletics ruined my love for my sport. And maybe you can relate, but that's what we're chatting about today, so let's go ahead and jump into it. Alright guys, so here on Retired College Athletes, we talk all about the college athletic experience and the transition out. We have a podcast as well, and we talk about those same things. And I've interviewed a lot of people who have had mixed reviews on how college athletics affected their love for their sport. Some people still love their sport. They can't wait to go play. They're in leagues and all this stuff. But for me and for many other people, college athletics kind of ruined our love for our sport. And if you are in that boat, you are not alone. And so I'm going to talk about a few different ways or reasons why college athletics ruined my love for my sport. First off, and we're just going to go ahead and get like a pretty, in my opinion, an obvious one out of the way, is that sometimes college coaches suck. And this is not for every college coach. I know a lot of awesome college coaches where their kids love playing under them. They're successful, and it's just like overall everyone walks away from that program with a really great experience. But that was not the case for me, at least initially. I started my career at a specific university. I started at UVA, and while I was there, I did not love my experience. I felt like I was in a program where my college coach wasn't very transparent about anything really. I think like there was a lot of manipulation, a lot of gaslighting in particular, and I've talked about that here on this channel, so I will link that in the cards above that video that we talk about that. But that was really, really hard for me. And I think to be going through that situation with a coach that just recruited you, so, you know, you're excited to play under them, you think that they have your best interest in mind, just to come to find out that they really don't, and that they're not super transparent about how they run their system, where you fit in and things like that, that can be so difficult. And so that was kind of the initial thing that made me realize like, I'm not enjoying this. But then as I look back on my career, it's a lot of the reason why I'm like, I actually don't love my sport that much anymore because of this. For me, I was coming from a program, an AAU program, which is just like kind of club basketball for those of you guys who don't know. I was coming from an AAU program that was really supportive. I was playing under coaches that believed in me, that were absolutely players' coaches, and I just kind of walked into college and was in a less supportive environment. Now, I'm hoping from these videos and from the podcasts that you guys listen to from RCA that you kind of understand, if you're an up and coming college athlete, that like these two are not synonymous. Like coming from a really supportive club program into college, they might not be as supportive. I knew that that could be the case. I just didn't think it would ever be the case for me. And so it was kind of jarring when I realized like, oh man, like this is just not what I expected. But also just the case, like I had mentioned before, of my coaches not being very transparent. And that kind of segues into the next thing, that college athletics is a business. And it's really hard to understand that if you're not already in it. So what do I mean by college sports is a business? Well, when you're playing AAU, when you're playing in high school, you're having a good time because it's pretty recreational. Like you're choosing to be there. What's required of you at that point in time isn't as much as what's going to be required of you in college. And you're really there because you love it. Like there's nothing really forcing you to be there. But in college, that is not the case. You're required to be there. You're under a contract to to decide to play, and of course like you willingly put yourself under that contract. But when things get tough, there isn't a lot of ways to kind of like get around that. There are no like personal days or sick days that you can take if you're getting overwhelmed, and you have to perform at such a high level under a lot of pressure. Again, these are things that you might know going into college athletics, but when you're actually in it, it just feels a lot different than when you're being told about it. Also, there is the politics side of it being a business. Again, I have talked about this on this channel, but whether you're playing or not playing, sometimes it has less to do with your performance, like your actual performance and output on the court in practice and in games, and more so to do with like your coach's vision for the team. Maybe they have something to prove to the AD, and so they're playing specific people. Maybe they just don't like you, and we've definitely heard that on this channel. I'm going to link my interview with Brianna DeBose in this, and she talks all about why she was never going to play under her coach and how her coach told her that, despite her being a great athlete for her team. So there's so much that goes into it that it's not so kid-friendly anymore. It's not so like, I'm going to go out here and just like play my heart out because I love it. Like there are definitely people who do that, and kudos to them. But for me, I think like the business aspect of college sports weighed me down and took away the fun from my actual sport. Another reason why college sports kind of messed up my love for my sport was that oftentimes there's not a lot of room carved out for like the rest of your life. And I'm not saying like, oh, it's hard to balance college sports and life, because it is. That's definitely one of the things. That's not one of the reasons why it ruined my love for my sport, though. It's the fact that like life happens while you're playing, and you're often having to choose to just like look past what's happening in your actual life to perform, and that's not always healthy. So my example is my mental health was not the greatest while I was in college. I was always in the sports psychiatrist's office, which is not a bad thing. They really helped me out, but I actually had like legitimate mental health problems I was working through. I was dealing with performance anxiety, which is something I didn't realize I had until I got to college, even though I had had it all through, I think, the majority of my high school career. As I look back and like realize why I was anxious, I think it manifested a lot there. It was just really intense in college. And so having to deal with performance anxiety and just the general anxiety of like being a college student, wanting to do well in school, all that stuff, and then the pressure to perform in practice, being in a non-supportive environment in practice, or just in general for a lot of my career, because basketball, of course, takes up a lot of your time, or whatever sport you play, takes up a lot of your time while you're in college. It can be so tough. So when I say there's not a lot of room for you to like, I guess like be a full human, like experience the rest of your life, like your life is not solely your sport. And I think oftentimes there isn't a lot of room carved out for you to really just feel everything that's happening to you. And so that was definitely the case for me. I was just extremely overwhelmed with like mental health issues that I was addressing for the first time. And there just wasn't a lot of space or a lot of grace to deal with that. And then finally, there is just the disappointment and unmet expectations of what I thought my college career would be like. If you would have asked me what my career would have been like going into college, I would have been like, oh, I would be great in the sense of like, I'll be on a team that I'm making a difference in. I'll be able to contribute at a high level. It'll be fun. And like, part of that is true. Like I was able to contribute at a high level. I think I was able to make a difference on my various teams that I was on, but it just didn't look the same. The way I performed was not what I expected. Being ranked going into college, and then kind of like looking at my performance, I'm like, wow, like you definitely like didn't perform very well. Like I guess it's like the best thing I could say. You just didn't perform very well. It wasn't what I expected. And so dealing with the grieving process of having your career not be what you thought it would be can be hard. And for me, that's a lot of the reason why I don't really love my sport anymore. It's kind of hard to be around the sport of basketball too much, because it brings back those memories of like either missed opportunity or what could have been and things like that. And so working through those feelings can be really intense. And that's a lot of the reason why I don't necessarily love my sport anymore, and how college athletics kind of took that away from me, in my opinion. Now, with that said, you got to take ownership for everything that happened to you. So for me to sit here and be like, college athletics was the reason this happened, is not taking full ownership. So I want to take a minute and say, like, there are so many things I could have done differently in my college career. There are so many things I could have spent more time getting to know, in the sense of like just being a better accepting of the fact that like it is a business, and that like my coaching staff isn't what I expected, and just taking that for what it is. With that said, I was definitely a 17 to like 21-year-old during that time. You can only do so much. You're a young adult, you're learning, so can't put too much pressure on myself for that. But I did want to take a minute to acknowledge that, like, if you sit here and just blame it on other things, the fact that you didn't enjoy your experience, I would encourage you to take a little bit of accountability and just look at how you also played a part in why you don't love your sport anymore. But with all that said, where am I today with my sport? So I have to say, I don't love basketball as much as I used to, but I also believe that that's because my relationship with the sport has changed a lot. I don't play anymore. I don't play competitively anymore. So before, from like 7 to 17, before I got to college, I was playing all the time. I was in tournaments every single weekend, and that was a lot of my life. When I got to college, it was a lot of my life. Like, I was playing all the time. I was in practice all the time. When I finished, I didn't go pro. I didn't want to. And so I just kind of stepped into the working world. And so I don't play anymore. So therefore, my experience with basketball now versus then is extremely different. But outside of that, I don't actually take the time to get into the gym or be around basketball when I don't have to. I will go and visit my friends and hang out with them who are coaches. So whether they're coaching at the high school level or at the college level, I will take time to go see them and hang out. But I myself am not going to find time to go shoot or anything like that. I think I've been out for about 4 to 5 years, and I think I've shot a total of less than 20 times in those 5 years. Like, I've been out for 4 to 5 years, so Do the math. That's like not a lot of shots getting up a year, or like times that I've gone to go shoot or be around the sport of basketball playing. I have not played pickup once. And that to me is just kind of getting at the last point I had mentioned, where it's like it's just sometimes hard to get around your sport again when you're dealing with the unmet expectations of your career, when things just didn't pan out the way that you thought they would. And so now, as you start to play again, or as you kind of think through those processes of like going to go play, maybe going to go find a pickup league or going to go shoot, all of those thoughts of like, oh man, this I could have been great at this didn't work out, all of those things start to flood in, and they can kind of take away from the fun of it. So that is kind of how my view of basketball has changed because of college athletics. I do think college athletics played a big part in why I don't love my sport anymore. But with that said, there's a lot that has changed in general. And if you're an athlete that feels that way as well, that you don't love your sport anymore, that a lot has changed and you're not sure if you're going to love it again, I think you can think about it in a way of like, let's pretend you don't love it again. That's okay. Like, that's okay. You're probably not going to love it at the same level that you did when you were 7 or when you were 17, or when you were finishing a career. And it's okay to have that change happen. I think oftentimes we so badly want to go to the past of how things were and recreate those memories in our mind. And that's okay. But you are a different person now. You're in a different season of life, and it's okay to not feel the same way about your sport as you did in the past. Ultimately, I don't have all the answers. I'm still kind of working through my own journey of kind of finding love for basketball again. Maybe not loving it at the same level, but definitely tolerating the sport a lot more than I have in the past, especially when I had recently graduated from college and finished my college athletic career. But with that said, I hope that you found this video helpful, or at least that you were seen through this video, you felt seen. I know a lot of athletes don't love their sport as much as they used to, and that's kind of a struggle point for people. But hopefully from this video, you can tell that I also struggle with that too, and that it's okay. It's perfectly fine to feel that way. With that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, that you learned something, and if you did, please consider hitting the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell notification so you don't miss a video from me. I post here every Thursday. So I definitely love to have you here. Have a great day, guys, and I'll talk to you guys next week.